For creators starting out, one of the best ways to get better at your craft is to copy what others do. There's actually a phrase called copywork that dates back quite a while, but it's basically this idea is finding what is existing and trying to match it. I remember one of the earliest things I ever made in Adobe Illustrator was trying to follow along with creating some super simple existing symbols and trying to get them spot on with the pen tool. And then learning to use different lighting effects. I created this along with the tutorial, just trying to create the paths and match the overall style, making sure that my lighting match theirs. And there's even a common practice where artists will go to museums and will follow along and try to match what the masters did with their paintings. And the idea is that you're simply just helping your hand, helping your muscle memory to grow and to really match what you're seeing. So what I'm going to do with you right now is to kind of walk you through this concept in Adobe XD with an existing screen and have you do that with this activity to kind of really practice this idea of getting better through recreating an existing thing. So we're going to put our original screen here on this artboard, and to go ahead and fit that screen, I'm just going to make a box that fills the screen. It'll make it easier for me to drop the screen on there, and I'll get that image right now that we'll utilize. I have this Apple Store screen that we're going to use. You can see here that I just dragged it right onto my artboard. And when I did that, it didn't necessarily fill the whole screen. I'd have to scale it down a bit. The reason I created this existing box, let me do that again, is if I simply just drag my image onto that box, it fits it exactly where it's supposed to be. I don't have to worry too much about it. It just does its job. Next to my original, I'm going to create another artboard, and this one I'm going to call my Copywork. Just zoom in a little bit there for you. And so I have a nice reference that I can utilize there. I am going to, let me take the borders off of these. I am going to dim this one down to about 50, 40 or so it's still there as a nice reference, and then I'll lock it. So I can't really access it, but it'll still be there. Now looking at the screen that exists, I'm going to break it down to its essentials and try to recreate it. The idea of this video isn't to get very specific, it's to generally show you how you might approach this, and then your job is to go and apply those ideas onto your own screen. Find an existing one and try to find something that has an element you're not familiar with. How do they create that gradient? How do they create that feel? What are they doing to achieve that layout, etc.? It's a great way to practice this. So looking at the screen, probably one of the easiest things we could start with is adding that status bar. We could create the rows. I think I'm going to go ahead and create the shapes for the containing elements, just these boxes, and then I'll style them up momentarily. So it's basically just a way for me to kind of see the overall structure of what we're doing. And actually for the row, since it's a repeating element, I'm only going to make one of these boxes. And then I'll add in the footer as well. And again, I won't be too specific for this particular video. I won't worry about the thin borders in between. But what I will do is, for each of these gray elements here, I'm going to sample the color over here, add it to my assets panel. Well, let's get rid of these borders so that doesn't get added. My assets panel here, so I have it available for later. You can see that those elements are all done now and good to go. And these are actually just going to be white backgrounds, so I'll go ahead and make them white, and I'll go ahead and add that color to my assets panel as well. And the repeating element is what I'm going to create for these rows. We'll get there in just a second. For now, let's go ahead and drop in that status bar. I can go to the file get UI kits from the iOS webpage. I actually already have that on my system. I'm just going to go ahead and open it up recently and copy that status bar over. There's a couple different places I can grab that from. It's in the UI elements section, but just so I make sure that it actually ends up in the right spot, it might be beneficial to grab this whole tab bar unit and then come to my page and paste it. And you can see that I won't be using the tab, I just want the status bar, but that puts the status bar, instead of being up in the corner where it's not supposed to be or off on the page, it's exactly where it's supposed to be positioned on the screen. And then I'll go ahead and Command L to lock that as well. Now that's there, I can start adding in, I'll add some basic text elements. And so that I can see those pieces I need to add, I'm just going to select these and hide them from view and then add in my text elements. There is an updates, and I'm going to make sure I'm using San Francisco for my typefaces. Mine is installed as FSF UI display, and I want to use the bold version for this title. You can get the fonts from the same location from Apple as the UI kits. Add in my update all text. I do want that blue to match the blue, so I'm going to go ahead and eyedrop it, but then I'll save that to my assets panel as well. Oh, you know what, there's a big part of it right here. Alright, and then my purchased. For now, I'm not actually going to worry about getting that symbol of apples. It's a pretty unique symbol. It might be something I actually have to create. That won't be necessary for what I'm doing here. For my little chevron here, I could easily use the pen tool to create that. But just so that I'm getting consistency, it might be a better approach to actually pull that from an existing icon set. So I'm going to go to one of my favorites, which is Icon Finder, and search for a chevron. There we go. I want something that matches the overall feel of what I'm looking for. It's right about here, I think. And what's great about using Icon Finder is if I go to View Details, I can see all the other icons that are in that set. This one actually has quite a few things, and that's a great way to keep my UI consistent across all my screens. For the one I'm looking for, I think this chevron will work. I'll download the SVG and drag it right on over to Adobe XD and get it in place. I'm going to zoom in because it's a little hard to maneuver that. You're not zoomed in. And I don't have a gray selected, like a dark gray. So same thing is I'm going to eyedrop it and then add it to my assets panel. So it's just continually creating a set of icons or colors that I can utilize over and over as I'm working. Looks like I can turn on my background now so you can see the white element and my rectangle at the top. Great, those are looking really great. Let's go ahead and get the available updates text added. And turn on that background for that element. And if I want to double check my work, I can always drop that, my little reference graphic out of the way so I can see. And really it's almost done. There's some like little minor things I could do. Like you can see there's a little border right here I could add if I want to spend more time specifically on those elements. I could add that in, and again I just need to eyedrop to make sure I'm getting the right shade of gray. Apple's going to give me that reference as well, but I can use my little chooser here, eyedropper, to do that. When I create my elements for the rows, what I'd like to do is save as much time as possible to save myself some effort. So I'm going to create just one of these. Let me hide this odd element. And once I've made one of them, and for now we're not going to actually add in a graphic, we'll just use that shape. Once I've made one row, I'll go ahead and make all my rows. For my border color and my border radius. Let's turn that background shape back on. So I have my shapes. I can group those if I'd like, and then turn on the repeat grid and pull down to get more of them and decrease the amount of padding to 0. And if I want to make sure that they're visible, let's go ahead and hide this element there. You can see it looks like I'm pretty close. I think my spacing's a bit off. There we go. add some more text elements. Keeping track of all those in the assets panel is really helping out. And for now, I'm only going to add a item title, very generic, not going to fill in the whole item. And the same thing for that bottom arrow. I don't need to add that in now. If I wanted to, I could make a triangle here, but it isn't necessary. And actually, you know what? We'll go ahead and add that. Let me move these pieces. I'll cut them, double click into my group and paste them again. Make sure they get where they need to go. And let's turn my background back on. There we go. Those are looking really great. I think this text, I'm going to use the command key to actually select just that text. And let's make it black instead, so that title stands out more. Looks like my update's a little bit big. Again, the details, like Apple actually will provide you some of those measurements, so I'm okay with them being a little off for our demonstration right now. But definitely, as much as you can pull from Apple's established guidelines, that's going to be really beneficial for you. I should probably just eyedrop this color as well, just so I have the right color. Just get in that habit now and use it all the time. You can see that I'm relying on Apple's guidance for using different font weights throughout, just to give things a solid contrast going through. And now if we look at this, I didn't actually put a border line there, it just happened to have a little bit of space. I do want there to be one, so I'm going to copy the one I created here, click into one of my elements and paste them in, and just bring it down so it's slightly above where the repeat happens. Ooh, looks like I missed it. And let's make sure we're using, I think that color's just a little bit dimmer. Yeah, just a little bit lighter. I think it could be a little bit darker than that. I don't think it's sampling the darkest color. But what you'll notice is that it doesn't actually go all the way to the edge. So it's kind of hard to select that one, but I'm going to cut it and paste it, and let's actually get this to the right size. Let's make sure that measurement is correct. Actually goes from the wall to the edge. Now I'm going to cut that again, come back to my other screen, and paste it and make sure it goes from the wall to the edge. A minor detail, but one that really helps to set that page up to the way it should look on this screen. And then really all that's left is the navigation at the bottom. And with this one, it's that same idea, is that I could create a star if I wanted to on my own. Same thing for the triangle here. However, in Adobe XD, there is only the circle tool and the square tool and the pen tool. So if I wanted to make a triangle, I could use the pen tool and make a pretty decent triangle. Works pretty well. I could also use the square tool, rotate it, use the pen tool to select, or actually just the direct select tool, and just get rid of one of the lines, and I get a pretty good triangle. However, if that does not sound appealing to you, or if it bothers you that the shape ends up with one extra little edge here that you're not interested in, you could actually go over to a tool like Adobe Illustrator and create your shapes just there as well and copy and paste them over. So that's what I'm going to do, is that if I wanted a triangle, I could create my polygon, use the arrow key to get down to a triangle. It should be the other way. And copy that over, and then just paste that into place. So I have that with my items. Zooming in to make sure that I'm correct on what I'm doing. What's nice is everything I paste over from Illustrator is a vector, is editable and manageable. Really easy to work in that way. And then I will cut it, click into my object, and paste it. Make sure it ends up where it needs to go. And I'm actually going to add that color to my palette here because that's like the mediumest of medium grays, and that's what this text is supposed to be. It's that same medium gray. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a little bit lighter than that. If we're going to get all specific about it, then we should be very specific about it. There we go. Much better. Use the command key to quickly select my arrow, get it to where it needs to go. That's looking much more complete. If you look down at the other shapes in my bottom navigation, you can see that they are a little bit more various. I could make a star in Illustrator instead of doing that here. Illustrator's got a nice star tool. It's got all kinds of different capabilities, squishing it, scaling it, all kinds of fun stuff. Or just a standard star would work just fine. However, there are several icons here, so instead of spending my time making those, my recommendation would be to find an icon set and do exactly what we did with the chevron. Find a set that matches, like if you were looking for a search icon, you could find an icon that works for what you're trying to accomplish, like say it was this one, grab the SVG, and if you were creating a whole set of work, you could actually see what other icons are available. This one has lots and lots of icons. It actually has a chevron as well. So really trying to stay within the same family of visuals is going to be so powerful for creating something really consistent. You could do that here. What's nice about this bottom tab bar is that Apple actually provides you a bit of a template for that. So I'm going to save what I'm working on as Copywork. And if I go back to the template I had of Apple's pages, one of the screens has some tab icons at the bottom. I'm not going to worry about having their icons. We won't even complete that here. For right now, I'm just going to grab this bottom navigation, bring it over, and paste it onto my screen. Yeah, excellent. And just make sure I got rid of my existing rectangle that I do not need. This one. Yeah, there we go. And I would be able to go in and change each of my labels to be correct. I already have that blue color in my assets panel here. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and drop in the red color as well, so I have that available for later. It's just a circle for the badge notification, but we'll leave it right there. That should be nice and complete as a way to kind of guide you to what you need to be accomplishing. Again, take the time to find a screen that is something maybe challenging for you. If this is challenging enough, start there and work as hard as you can to get things as close as possible to the existing screen. The harder screen you pick, the harder it will be trying to match everything, but I think you'll find it beneficial as a way to practice and really enhance these skills for yourself.